This nightmare for Carnival passengers comes just over a year since the Costa Concordia became the largest passenger ship ever to capsize. That accident, of course, turning deadly. Some 4,200 people on board rescued in those waters. Tonight here, we're back on the scene. Why is the ship still lying on its side all these months later? And have we learned anything to make passengers safer? Dan Harris went back to Italy to find out.
It was one of the largest, costliest, and arguably most infamous cruise ship disasters since the Titanic.
The kids, go!
The Costa Concordia, a 15-story luxury liner which ran aground off the coast of Italy on Friday the 13th of January 2012, killing 32 people. But in the last 13 months, as the story has faded from the headlines, what has happened to the man they called Captain Coward, blamed for causing the crash and abandoning ship? To the passengers who barely escaped? And what about the massive ship itself? We took a journey to find out. On a ferry off the coast of Tuscany, an hour into our voyage, it came looming into sight.
That is extraordinary.
A 60,000-ton behemoth beached in pristine, environmentally sensitive waters.
More than a year after the Costa Concordia went down, here it is. It's still here, surrounded by cranes and other vessels, which are involved in an extraordinary, expensive, risky, and unprecedented salvage operation. The plan is deceptively simple: to turn this hulking mass of steel upright and simply float it away.
It is an audacious plan. They are welding a series of enormous buoyancy tanks to one side of the boat, which will be used to rotate it upright. It will land, they hope, on an enormous steel bed and then be floated to the surface and towed away to a scrapyard. It could cost more than $500 million, and it might not even work. It is a far cry from the ship's heyday. Before she was rusting and rotting, she was a glittery showpiece with more than 18 restaurants and bars. Her captain, a made-for-TV villain named Francesco Schettino, who favors dark suits, sunglasses, and slicked-back hair, and who, in the dark of night, 3 hours into a 10-day cruise, decided to attempt a risky maneuver, taking the ship off course to give a sail-by salute to honor a fellow captain who lived on the tiny island of Giglio. But the ship came too close and hit an underwater rock. For an hour, as panic set in, the crew told the 3,200 passengers to return to their cabins, that it was just a minor technical problem. By the time Captain Schettino got around to issuing the abandoned ship order, the vessel was in chaos, with people pushing one another to get onto the lifeboats, and some of them jumping to their deaths. Lynn Kalin from Seattle documented the confusion.
Because we were literally in pitch black on this huge ship, and no one had any directions whatsoever. It was total chaos.
Members of the Ananias family from California were among the last off the ship.
We knew that this was the end for us.
We told our daughters that go ahead, our life, we've lived, save yourselves. And they told us no, we go as a family.
Meanwhile, Captain Schettino was long gone. He later said he tripped and fell into a lifeboat. A Coast Guard official was recorded screaming at the captain to go back and help. Damn it, he said, go back on board. There were heroes that night, including the people of Giglio Island.
On that terrible night, many of the passengers and crew jumped into these frigid waters and swam over to these rocks, where they were tended to by complete strangers who live in this little port village.
The mayor, Sergio Ortelli, made an extraordinary decision.
You ordered people to open up their homes and businesses to the survivors. Why did you do that?
Some of them were soaking wet and frightened. Many of them were elderly, he said, and many of them children. Giuseppe Modesti still cries when he recalls the night when the town opened its arms to the wet and the wounded.
It's tough for you to talk about, emotional.
My mind goes back to that night, he said, and the emotions from those days return. In the immediate aftermath, the island was flooded with family members like Kevin Rebello, who we met as he was looking for his brother Russell, a waiter on the Concordia.
My instinct says he's somewhere around. I hope he's alive.
4 weeks ago, Giulio once again hosted survivors and victims' family members for the 1-year anniversary. Kevin Rebello was there, his brother still missing and now counted as one of the dead.
For us, it's very important to have a body to take him home. For me and for my family, it's very important.
There was a procession and later a minute of silence at the exact moment, 9:45 p.m., when the Concordia ran aground. 32 lanterns carrying messages for those who did not survive.
There's still a lot of not understanding why we survived and other people didn't. And that is something that's very, very hard to live with.
This week, we caught up again with Lynn Kalin, who captured those haunting images from the Costa Concordia. She says watching this latest cruise ship crisis unfold in the Gulf brings it all back for her.
It brings back the memories of the night when we literally went over on the cruise ship. I feel so sorry for those people because I know what it's like being stuck on a cruise ship and not being able to get off.
One of the major ongoing frustrations for the survivors, lawsuits against Carnival Cruise Lines, which owns the Costa Concordia, are unlikely to go far. Maritime law is not generous to victims of disasters. The most you can probably collect for wrongful death or severe injury, roughly 60 grand. Lynn Kalin collected just over $9,000.
It definitely doesn't cover the stress in our going to psychiatrists and things like that, and all of our belongings on the ship, and we're still living with it.
I haven't slept one good night since the accident.
My girls have had nightmares. One of them is saying that she's at an angle, like at a tilt, constantly in the dream.
So what has become of the man who is allegedly to blame for this accident? Captain Scatino is at his home near Naples under court orders. Since the crash, he's been publicly defending his actions.
Lei non crede di aver commesso un crimine?
Assolutamente no.
Calling himself a hero, blaming his subordinates, and saying he has no regrets.
Io rifarei quello che ho fatto, visto?
And here's the kicker. He is now suing the cruise company to get his job back.
Io ho fiducia in tutte le persone che stai guidando questo caso.
Lei si sentirebbe ritornare su una crociera, comandante?
Certamente sì.
That comment drives Lynn Kalin up a wall.
I don't understand how someone that has done what he has done could even consider him working for the industry ever again.
Get the kids, go, go.
He didn't know what was going on with us. We have children, you have babies, and he's the first person off the ship. Where was his compassion for us?
In weeks, a judge is expected to announce whether there's enough evidence to indict Scatino on manslaughter, causing a wreck, and abandoning ship. The man they call the Chicken of the Sea may be looking at life behind bars. Meanwhile, after a series of delays, salvage crews hope to be able to remove the Costa Concordia from her watery resting place this September. For those whose family members died, however, the losses will remain incalculable.
In the months after the Costa Concordia disaster, the cruise industry facing a huge image problem. New bookings dropped, cancellations skyrocketed, and Carnival and other cruise line operators had to cut their rates to attract new passengers. Many asking tonight, will the same thing happen now after the triumph?